So watching your child have a tantrum could probably be one of the most challenging, most embarrassing, most frustrating, most overwhelming experiences that you may experience as a parent of a toddler. And so although a lot of times parents initially want to respond and to react and just go off of how they're feeling in the moment, in this video, I'm actually going to be sharing with you 5 things that you should not do when your child is throwing a tantrum. Easier said than done, but one thing that you don't want to do when your child is having a tantrum is to lose your temper. Because how is that going to help your child get a hold of their temper? So if you're throwing an adult tantrum and your child is throwing their tantrum, that is going to be very hard for both of you to work through. And so you may have to work on your own personal ways of calming and regulating so that you can be there for your child. Because if you lose your temper and you're fussing and yelling and screaming along with your child, it's not helping or beneficial to either one of you. So I want to make sure I throw it out there that it's okay if you need to practice your own self-regulation strategies, because tantrums can be very alarming and alerting for adults as well, and can sometimes send adults over the top as well. And so it's important that we understand our limits as well. And so you definitely want to work on some self-regulation strategies that are going to help you in the moments and in the times that your child throws a tantrum. The second thing that you definitely do not want to do when your child is throwing a tantrum is to use too much language. Sometimes when your child is throwing a fit, you want to try to console them by talking, and sometimes you talk too much. So sometimes you're trying to explain to them why the answer is no, and explaining to them if they got to do this first and then they can do this, or if they would just calm down, or you're trying to reason with them. And in that moment, when your child is sprawled out on the floor, screaming, crying, kicking, whatever they're doing, they're not hearing you. They're not hearing anything that you're saying. So it's a big waste of breath and a big waste of energy on your part. Because when your child is at that level, they hit their max, they're not learning at all, right? It's not a good teachable moment for them. It's not a good learning time for them. The best time to really help your child to learn how to cope with their emotions and to learn regulation strategies and to implement regulation strategies is before your child gets to that point where they reach their max, or at the point where they are actually calm so they can start to learn those strategies. But in the moment when your child is at that level and they have already reached their max where they're throwing a tantrum, try not to use any language if possible, right? Try not to engage in too much conversation with them because they're not really listening or hearing from you anyway. The third thing that you definitely don't want to do when your child is throwing a tantrum is making empty threats. And what I mean by that is you say, well, if you continue to do this, then I'm going to take away your iPad. And when you get home, what happens? You give them their iPad. That's an empty threat, because now they've learned all I have to do is yell and fuss and scream and get my way, and mom is going to eventually give in, or dad is eventually going to let me get my way. And if you let it happen one time and they learn that, it's going to become a learned behavior where they learn that all they have to do is scream, kick, and fight and yell, and eventually they'll get their way. And if you try so hard but you still give in, the next time it happens is just going to escalate, and they're going to scream and kick and cry even more until they get their way, because they have learned that this is what they have to do in order for you to give in. So the best thing for you to do is to either not make any threats at all, or to follow through with the threats that you have given them. The fourth thing that you don't want to do when your child is throwing a tantrum is engaging in power struggles. So it's so hard, right, to have this little 2-year-old, this little force of power kind of trying to get their way, and you're struggling by telling them no, they can't have their way, and your child is like, yes, I'm going to get my way, and you're like, no, you're not going to get your way. And it becomes this power struggle, this battle between you as the adult and this 2-year-old child. And don't get me wrong, I work with 2-year-olds all the time. I know they can be crazy, so I know what that feels like. But the best thing to do is to not involve yourself in that power struggle, because it's just going to be extremely hard for the child and extremely hard for you. The best thing that you could do is just kind of wait it out until things have calmed down. Give your child that time and that space that they need, and then you guys can both move forward in whatever else that it is that you have aligned for them later. And then later on, that's when you can kind of start to reinforce yourself as that authority figure in their lives. The fifth thing that you want to avoid when your child is throwing a tantrum is overstimulating your child. So if your child is already slumped to the floor, they're already screaming, they're already crying, they're already kicking, the last thing they need for you to do is to start overstimulating them by trying to comfort them right away, or maybe trying to talk to them a lot, or playing music, or moving them or rocking, whatever have you. Sometimes those things is too much for a child, and it just kind of helps them shut down or throw even a bigger tantrum, right? So the best thing that you could do is try to give your child the space that they need. If you're out in public, obviously you can't just leave your kid lying on the floor in the middle of the grocery aisle. So you may just have to scoop them up and maybe take them out to the car until they're able to kind of get it together, and then try it again later, or try it again at another time. But you definitely want to make sure that you're not making a situation worse by giving them too much input when they're already at a level that's hard for them to understand and to learn. So make sure that you are providing them with a safe space. Make sure that once they have calmed down and they're able to listen and focus more, then maybe you can provide them with some choices, or even start to teach them some different like social stories, or play different role plays or different scenarios to really kind of help them work through their emotions, so that the next time, hopefully there won't be a next time. Alright guys, let me know in the comments below, how do you handle things when your child has a tantrum? Like, what's your reaction, or what's something that you have learned that has really helped you to deal with your child's tantrums? Share it in the comments below, because I'm sure there is another parent out there who would love to hear your advice and your tips for when your child personally has a tantrum. And guys, if you want to continue to learn more about early childhood, make sure you follow me, Ash the OT, subscribe to my channel, like, comment, share my videos, and hit the notification bell so you will continue to be alarmed and alerted when I upload my new videos. And thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.